Hi, my name is Dr. Ross Hauser. Welcome to the Hauser Neck Center here in Fort Myers, Florida. Here with Wendy from Riverside, California. And you said you first came here in May of 2024. So we're now in January of 2025. I know I'm not supposed to date these videos, but the reason why I wanted us to do this video, and thank you for volunteering for it, was one is you're almost done with your care, so you could talk about your journey and why you chose to do the prolotherapy route and why you thought, you know, your neck was causing some of your symptoms. But the other thing too is nausea. Any of us who have this symptom of nausea, in many ways I think nausea can even be worse than pain, because anybody who's had food poisoning, and of course all of us many times in our life have had food poisoning, and I've had parts of my life where I had extended nausea for various reasons, and to me it's even worse symptom than pain. And I wanted to make a video because you've had a dramatic improvement in your nausea, so if you could.
I have. It started in September 2023. Okay. It got really, really bad. I had bulging discs in my neck, and we were on vacation, having a lot of fun, being really active, jumping off the boat in the water, and it just got really bad. And for about 3 months, I started, all of a sudden, my symptoms increased dramatically. By January,
kind of let somebody in, like, what was it like when, you know, because when we talk about nausea, what was it actually like day to day?
So
like, how bad
it was very
it?
positional.
You would be upright.
If I turned my neck a certain way, if I looked down, if I looked up too far, I could only sleep in one position in the bed. I had to be on my left side with like a 3/4 turn. I couldn't lay on my right side for 2 years because of nausea.
Like you feel like you're going to throw up.
Yeah. It was awful.
Terrible head pressure.
So I had the shooting pains above my eye. I had cluster headaches. I'd wake up in the morning, and if I laid on my back for too long, I would start getting headaches. I noticed that my ears felt full, and I kept going to my doctor, and he kept looking at my ears, and he said, everything's fine. You don't have any illness of any type. And I had that feeling of a bowling ball sitting on the back of my neck. It was just, everything was so tight. And by January of 2024, I had 2 solid days of nausea. And brain fog was very bad. I work with my husband in his financial planning practice, and I would be sitting at the computer, and my brain fog was so bad that I couldn't focus. I literally had to take information from this sheet and put it in a computer, and I couldn't focus. And he would come over and just say, just go home. So I get a little emotional about it because it was a long time I was dealing with it, and I had no relief. And then by January, I just got so frustrated. 2 days I was nauseous, and I just got on Google. Everyone always says, how'd you find Dr. Hauser? And so I Googled, I said, I knew I had bulging discs from like 2018. And I Googled you, and I found these videos. And you had this diagram, and I had 80% of the symptoms. And so my husband came home, and I just sat there crying. And I said, I want to go to him. And he's like, he's in Florida. Like,
I know, it's kind of crazy. It's a long
We're in
flight.
California.
Yeah.
And I said, but he's the guy because he studied under the originator. He did it for 30 years. I'm going to go to the best. This is my neck we're talking about. And he read through it, and I said, you need to read this website. And I just put it in front of him.
I'll just tell you something funny. I mean, thank you for sharing all that. But long story short, I've had patients tell me they've literally been in the doctor's office. Then they show them one of my videos. Yeah. And then the doctor has said, yeah, I think you should go to that doctor. You know what I mean? No, but the point is, all I do is try to teach anatomy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I wasn't saying anything different than normal anatomy. It's just, you know, like when you're, like, in other words, if you researched like what causes nausea, right? So obviously a gastroenterologist would do a scope. Did you ever have that? Did they ever scope you to,
No.
okay. So, they might look at, well, is it coming from the stomach?
Right.
Like, is it coming from the
Right.
stomach? So say that's normal. Then the next thing would be is, well, could it be an inner ear problem, right?
Right.
Could it be an inner ear problem, especially
Right.
if you have changes of hearing or you have ear fullness,
Right.
right? So they were just saying that your doctors were just saying, I just don't think it's an inner ear problem. Because
Right.
anybody who researches nausea will say, well, Meniere's could be it. Meniere's, which is
Right.
related to the inner ear.
I couldn't
even-
even hold a small item like my purse in
Yeah.
front of me without massive nausea.
Did you ever have to go to the ER because you were
No.
So you were able to eat and everything.
Yes.
See,
yes.
so that's why they never thought it was a
Right.
It was a stomach problem or an intestinal
They would just
problem.
say, stop doing that and take
Right.
NSAIDs.
Then just out of curiosity, because normally with cluster headaches, so I have had patients come with cluster headaches and we've helped them get over the cluster headaches. Often with that, they'll give you like steroids or something. What medicines did they try to?
No, it was just your normal over-the-counter
Okay.
stuff.
So
And
nobody gave you Zofran or whatever for
no, but they would just
Okay.
tell me stop doing what I was doing. I had done CrossFit for about 8
Okay.
years,
Okay.
and I am trying to stay fit. I'm 57, and so I'm trying
Yeah.
to stay focused on the upper body exercises and resistance training. And it just got to a point I haven't been able to do it for the last year. I just had to completely stop because anything that I pushed overhead immediately put me into a nausea state.
Okay. How much better do you think your nausea is?
I'm 90% better.
Okay.
I'm 90% better. I even had ear ringing. If I had slept on my right side, it would ring and then I'd move back. 20 minutes later, it would go away. So there's probably even more symptoms I'm not even remembering at the moment. But
Well, why don't you go through all your symptoms, and since starting curve correction and prolotherapy, how much better are they? So you said nausea is 90% better.
90% better. The headaches are 90% better. The shooting pains over my eye are completely gone. The tinnitus, maybe 3% of the time. It's very rare.
So 97%.
97% better.
Okay.
When I work at a computer, so I would have burning in the either side. That is very rare, and that usually has to do with a lot of stress or me traveling, and I've got it on one side.
Okay.
But I'm seeing a NUCA chiropractor per your recommendation, and I feel like that's just in the last month, and so pairing those together has been significant. Like I said, the fullness in the ear has gone away.
Did you have any vision issues?
I did feel like I had that September through until I called you in January.
Right.
I felt pressure in my right eye. I felt like a distortion. I kept going to the doctor trying to figure
visual
out
distortion.
what the issues were, and I couldn't get that figured out.
Yeah.
And ironically, after the first couple times of prolotherapy, my husband and I would go out to breakfast the next day, and I'm like, my vision is great. Like, it's just crystal clear, you know, and I'm thinking, is it because I changed my contacts? Is it, what was it? But I have noticed it's increased as well. Done much better.
Yeah, a lot of people don't see or understand the connection between like the neck, the jugular veins, and vision, because the eye drains ultimately into the jugular vein. So if the eye can't drain, it's similar to on the internet I put in that brain toilet.
Yes.
It's basically eye toilet or toxic eye.
Yeah.
So whatever happens in the brain often happens in the eye. So it isn't like people who have dementia and then the eye's normal. Normally it's the things that accumulate in Alzheimer's patients also accumulate in the eye because the fluid flow in the eye is also obstructed. That's why I just asked. Yeah, it's a high percentage of people that come to the Hauser Neck Center have vision distortion, blurry vision, eye pain, dry eyes, tearing.
Dry eyes, I've had a lot of. That's gotten better. I didn't know if
Yeah.
there was a correlation.
Yeah.
But what I did find is during that period, I had a lot of eye infections because of my dry eyes.
Yeah.
And I haven't had one since I started Prolo.
Yeah. What about brain fog, memory, and how are those doing?
Much better, much better. The brain fog is almost non-existent now. The memory is like I can find my words again. Because of my age, I was blaming it all on, am I going through menopause? Is this, but no, it's significantly better. Like I'm finding words that I couldn't find before. And I feel like this has been a slow onset. Like I said, I did CrossFit for 8 years and have arthritis in my family. And so, no, I'm finding words that I haven't been able to find before.
So hubby is kind of glad you insisted on going to the, like, does he feel like he's got his wife back?
I don't know. I don't know. You'd have to ask him. I think we were, when we landed yesterday in anticipation of coming here, we just had our first grandbaby.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you.
Wow.
And I remember telling him that I've been holding her for the last month, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without you.
Wow.
So thank you.
That's amazing. God is good, right? Like God has a certain timing. Like it's hard to understand like why God allowed you to suffer and all this stuff, but
I feel like He put me in that position so that I would get here, so that I would.
I always think like God uses certain things so ultimately we can help people. I think God's in the helping business, so obviously probably like I had a patient this morning, I was just explaining to him, it was somebody from Idaho, and I said, and it was a young guy, like half my age and your age, and I was just saying the amount of people that person, if he lives to be 90, think about 62 years. So in the next 62 years, do you know how many people he's going to see that have ligamentous cervical instability? And because you both have been there, and now you're on the other side. Like, imagine all the people that you could help. Like, just at least educate people and just say, hey.
That's what scared me so bad about it, is because, yes, when I came to see you, I was 56 years old, but am I going to live the next 35 years? I mean, we have longevity in my family.
Oh, that's good.
We're into the 90s and even 100s. So all I kept thinking was, and what really, I had a lot of anxiety. I had heart palpitations. There was a lot of things that I had. And I just kept thinking, am I going to live the next 30 years of my life like this? And I need to figure it out. So what I've learned in the last, 8 to 10 years is you have to be your own advocate. Every time I tell people about you, they're like, how on earth did you find him coming from California all the way to Florida? And I got on the internet. I was just persistent, and I just watched your videos, and your videos were the number one thing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and your diagrams. When you get up in front and you do the diagrams and you show all the symptoms, and I also followed you on social media, and you kind of take one category at a time. And I sent it to my whole family because people kind of have a hard time understanding prolotherapy versus PRP, and a lot of people have done the PRP and have had not good results. And so I will send it. I said, no, this is what I'm doing. This is why it's working. And try and describe it even. You're like, well, yeah, they inject something and it creates inflammation, and your body comes to that point and tightens those, those ligaments. It's not just a muscle thing. So, but no, I've had great success, and I would, talking about my husband, I've been much more happy. I've been able to work. I haven't had as much pain.
Are you back to full? Like, how many hours were you working full time before, or how many hours?
We have our office is open 4 days a week, and so there were times where I would only be able to come in, a couple hours, and then have to leave in the afternoon. How many hours are you working now? And well, we're kind of spoiled. We travel sometimes, so it can be.
Are you back? Like, are you back to where you were?
I'm back to working as much as I want.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So it's definitely been very beneficial.
I also this morning had a new patient. I was just explaining that the whole process takes about a year because the whole from start to finish because you're 8 months in now. So, but you know, if you spend like 1 year on a therapy that works, and then you have 34 great years, you know, it's worth it, even though it's a lot of sacrifice to get on an airplane with hubby and and expense and come here and get painful shots, though the doctor like dresses kind of cool.
Yes, yeah.
And then of course the staff is amazing. Like, in other words, like, because I always tell Izzy, you know, Izzy is
Yes.
filming us right now. Because, you know, you got to realize I'll give it to Izzy. So I'm like, okay, there's ligamentous cervical instability, then it does the vagus, and then there's 800 million arrows,
Right.
and it goes to nausea, right?
Right.
Because, you know, I'm sure she's like, oh my God, how am I going to do all this? But you got to realize there's lots of people who are really, really smart. So you could take one of those diagrams, like that's basically what you're saying. Like here, Doc has
Yeah.
shown by 10 different mechanisms
Yeah.
that ligamentous cervical instability can cause nausea.
Right.
So all you have to have is one of them.
Right.
And
I was kind of
basically,
relieved to know that if so many of my symptoms were caused by that, because then I knew that that could be repaired.
yeah.
And it is a little bit when you say, okay, you're going to be here 7, 8, 9 times. We're just waiting for the symptoms to subside, and that it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's easy to get a little discouraged, but then once you get over that hump, you just have a mindset
Yeah.
shift, and now you're excited to go to Prolo because you're getting better and better
Yeah.
each time.
Yeah. Like people forget, like, say you have vagus nerve degeneration, right? So most of the people that come here, they're in a free fall where it's getting worse,
Yeah.
worse. So that's like, even if you do the right treatment right here, you still have vagus nerve degeneration. Like there's going to be, like, instead of like free flowing bad, it might just still get a little bit worse and then eventually boom.
Yeah.
So that's kind of,
What I got really excited about was that it was a permanent fix.
Yeah.
It wasn't a temporary
yeah,
fix.
as long as you use good posture. Did
Yes.
did you have to change your computer height?
We did.
Okay.
It's my husband and I laugh a lot about it because we have an office and then a glass conference room and then his office, and if I see him hunching over his computer, I'll
He's a
call
huncher,
him,
huh?
and he'll immediately, you know, push it back, and so we will sit and hold each other accountable
Oh, that's
with our
good.
posture.
That's good.
And, you know, making sure, because that is my job. I'm on the computer constantly. But it's interesting to see what actually are the things that will kind of irritate it a little bit more. Obviously, position of my neck and where I'm
Yeah.
looking. And you're holding a brand new grandbaby. What are you doing? You're looking down in the exact position that that you shouldn't be, or creating tension in your shoulders and things like that. So, but yeah, we've focused on our posture and making
What do you
sure.
think long term your exercise is going to look like? Because I'm always interested in that. Like, I did the Ironman 5 times,
Yeah.
but now that I'm 62, I just don't have the chutzpah or what mojo or whatever you want to call it, like to spend hours and hours and
Yeah.
hours. But what do you think? What do you think long term to keep you healthy? What you think you're going to do? Like, will you go back to CrossFit or not?
Won't go back to CrossFit because
Okay.
it was too intense.
Okay.
I don't need to be doing
Okay.
backlifts of 125 pounds and
Okay.
PRs and things like that. But I do want to have some resistance training. So I work with a trainer twice a week.
Okay.
And we start off really light. When I
Okay.
haven't seen him, like I haven't been there in a month because we've been traveling. But when I go back, he starts at 2.5 pound discs and then
Okay.
5 and gradually works me up. And it's really just any resistance training
Okay.
at all. I just want to be
Maintain your
fit.
muscle mass.
And then have the cardio and be able, right now, obviously I can walk and hike and do all those things, but it's the upper body. Like I made the mistake over this Christmas holiday of helping my dad with a suitcase. I reached over, picked it up and walked it upstairs. That wasn't smart.
Okay.
It was probably 35 pounds only on one side.
Okay.
Shouldn't grab my lab and try and, pull her on her leash. The other thing that I've learned a lot from you is the enormous amount of ways, and it's 100 different ways that your neck can be. I think you have a graph in one of your offices,
Yeah.
And it could be something that happened when you were very young. We used to ride jet skis and water ski. I crashed numerous times.
Okay.
It could have been back then. It could have been CrossFit. It could have been us going four-wheel
Or
on the
forward
Jeep.
head, just with
Over
it.
time.
Over
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
COVID was not good for me. I sat on a couch for a year, hunched down
Yeah,
on
yeah.
a computer.
Yeah, a lot of people.
And that was probably the single most thing
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
really bad for me.
Yeah, that's true.
But being upright and being able to be physically active, we want to travel. And we would love to go to Europe. And again, we can walk all over Europe, but I'm a strong, independent woman who gets tired of calling my husband saying, can you pick up this and move it over there? So I would like to get back to a point where I could lift something that's 30,
Yeah.
40 pounds and it not affect this or set me backwards in any way.
Where do you, in percentage wise, where do you think you're at? Like, are you functionally, are you 60% there, or where would you say?
Functionally, I mean, I can do pretty much anything. Some of the things that I've noticed, if I'm chopping in the kitchen, I
Okay.
mean, I was very good about using my prism glasses, especially in the
good.
beginning. Now I'm noticing that I have a little bit more flexibility and I'm able to,
Okay.
look down and
Good.
pour things or do some chopping. But if I do it for a little bit too long, my body tells me you shouldn't be doing that.
Okay.
But getting back to the weights, I don't know until I get there.
Yeah, that's
because as
kinda
soon as
true.
that tension
That's kinda
hits,
true.
seems to be when
Okay.
things start going awry. So,
Yeah.
but I'm hoping that the blend of the
Yeah.
Prolo and the Nuka and keeping me,
Well, and the training, the personal training.
keeping me in alignment. So yeah, I just want to get back to 3 days a week and then walking and as much cardio as I can. I had a rowing machine, so at one point that I was doing a lot of that. That seemed to be probably antagonizing. I go to my doctor and they're saying don't push, don't do sit-ups, don't do bench press, don't do anything where you're pushing. And then I go to somebody else and they're don't do anything pulling. Don't lift over your head. And so I was just feel helpless, completely helpless.
I think we all would agree when you're getting back to exercise, the exercise itself, as long as you practice perfect form, right?
Yeah.
People get injured when they
Yeah.
don't have good form. And slower motions initially are better than quick motions. Because, let's be honest, like CrossFit, which helps a lot of people, but it is a very, very fast
Intense.
motion.
Yeah.
So the faster the motion, the more likely there's going to be an injury, especially the heavier the weights.
Right.
Where when you have a weight and you do it very slowly, you don't need as much weight to fatigue.
Right.
So that would be the key.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. I'm no longer doing kettlebell swings and trying to, pump over
Yeah.
the top. It's more, small dumbbells and just to be fit and just to be strong.
Sounds good,
Yeah,
Wendy.
do some resistance.
So happy for you. And we thank you so
you.
much for telling your story, and
My pleasure.
look forward to hearing about all your adventures
Thank you.
in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much.